let's talk about pricing, how to price yourself and your work, because I get questions like this one a fair amount, and both in comments on posts and photographers reaching out to me and other artists and small business owners. So I'm going to walk you through today all of how to figure out the cost of doing your business, and then how to figure out if you're charging enough to actually run your business and make a living. And if you're like, well, I don't do my art or my photography as a business, I'm just doing it as fun on the site, that's great. But your time is still valuable, whether that's time actually creating the work or editing the work, or if you are taking clients in just as sort of a side thing, that's time that you could be doing anything else. So that time is valuable. A couple of things to note. One, the flowers are here because a local florist dropped them off for me, and they're just making me happy. These are from Kentucky Blooms. I'm not being paid to say that. They just make me happy. Two, I'm going to be working with a couple of spreadsheet tools that I made that I use to track my own cost of doing business and to make sure that I'm pricing my products and my services appropriately. I do have a link to purchase these in the description. It's $19 to buy both of them together. You don't have to buy them. I don't care. You can follow along with what I do, and you can make your own stuff, or you can get these that are already pre-made, make your life easier. Either way, no difference to me, but I will be showing you screenshots as we go. So why it's so important to actually figure out your pricing, right? Like, how many times have we all seen it, especially like if you're in Facebook groups or anything, where somebody comes in and says, I'm looking for a photographer who won't break the bank. And then you see just a ton of photographers in the comments who are like, oh yeah, I'll come and I'll do your photo shoot for $150 and you get 900 images when you but and they're delivering away everything, and it's a race to the bottom every single time, right? So if you're doing this as a business, that's not a sustainable business, like not even slightly. And I'm going to show you that with the spreadsheets. If that was the model that you're doing, then you would have to take on so many sessions that you would never have a life, nor would you have time to market or edit, or you would never sleep. And none of us got into this business so that we could work 24/7 and not have time to do the things that we enjoy to do. A personal story with this. It's like when I first started, I didn't really understand pricing. What I did was I saw things in the groups and this is what people are charging in Facebook groups, not the real pros. And so when I first started and decided that headshots were going to be where I was going to go, I charge $150 for up to a 4-hour session, which is an insanely long headshot session. And then I included 4 edited images in that price. Didn't book me more clients when I was charging less. I book more now that I charge more. But what it do has meant that I was constantly struggling to make ends meet. And the clients that I was getting weren't ideal. It was people who would come at me and go, well, I know you're including 4 images for $150, but what if I only want 1 image? And so they would try to beat me up on price more. And it just wasn't fun. It wasn't profitable. And now that I charge considerably more, the clients that I get are fantastic. They value the work. They value my time. They value my expertise. And every single one of them loves the images that I create for them, right? So I learned this the hard way. Hopefully I can take a little bit off of your plate going forward. Okay, so let's jump into this, into these spreadsheets and breaking down the numbers. The first page that you're going to see on the cost of doing business calculator, and the cost of doing business calculator is the one that you should fill out first, because this is going to be your foundation and tell you where you want to go. The first line that you see on this form is your desired annual take-home income, right? So for simplicity's sake, we're going to stick with like big round numbers on this. So let's say that your desired number is $100,000 for the year take home, right? And then you need to figure out how many sessions a week you want to shoot. Okay. So be realistic about this. You know, don't come in and go, I just want to shoot as many as I can, because you need to have a life too. So we have to figure out how many sessions you want to do in a year, right? And let's be realistic about it. Don't come in and say like, I want to do 1,000,000 sessions a week. Unless you do, if you can pull that off, more power to you. But for simplicity's sake, big round numbers, let's say you want to do 5 sessions a week. So that would put you at 260 sessions per year. Don't forget that, like, you also want time off as well. Like, you're probably going to want to take some holidays off. You might want to take a vacation. You might just need some mental health days. So that's why I go, don't be nuts and go, I'm going to do 5,000 sessions in the year, unless you have staff and then pull it off. Anyway, so big round number, we're going with 260 for this. You can change it to whatever you want to change it to. I have added on this form tax planning, right? So I have the next line on there is your tax/buffer percentage, right? Because don't forget, you have to pay your taxes. And if you're running this as a business, you pay your taxes quarterly. Now, I am not a tax professional, so putting that out there now. What I do is I take 35% of every dollar that comes through my door, and that goes into a tax account so that I will always have money to pay my quarterly taxes and to pay my CPA and all of that. So, but you know, is 35% enough or too much? It's always been enough. Is it too much? I typically end up with a little buffer at the end of the year, but I would rather end up with excess in that tax account at the end of the year than not have enough and then owe the federal government more money. So I'm going with 35%, put in whatever is comfortable for you. Okay, so then the next thing that we're going to do, you're going to see that there's a bunch of tabs across the bottom that I've already added. So we're going to start filling out these tabs, and you're going to go through and you are going to be detailed for everything in your business that costs you any sort of money. And I'm painting a pretty broad brushstrokes for this example. When you do this, every single detail matters, right? Because this is going to get us to our final number of what it takes for you to operate every year. So, you know, the first tab is the equipment tab. So, you know, we've got things like our camera body, our lenses, and you may already own your camera body and your lenses. But it's not a bad idea to be setting aside money, setting aside capital to be able to purchase new cameras and new lenses, because gear does wear out over time. So just things to think about there. Think about your lighting. So, you know, if you're buying new light, you know, strobes, or if you need to buy bulbs, you know, new flash tubes and things for your strobes, lighting modifiers, backdrops and stands, you know, memory cards, computer, hard drives, tripods, travel equipment, any of those things, like any equipment that you need through the year. And don't forget, like, detail things. Like if you shoot tethered, making sure that you have, you know, good tether cables ready to go. If you're making video and the thing, making sure that you've got microphones and backups and all of that stuff. Any equipment that it takes to run your studio will go on this list. Then we'll jump over to the next tab, subscriptions, right? So I know that a lot of people are getting away from Adobe at this point for whatever reasons, but I still use it, so it's on the list. So, you know, your Adobe subscription, if you use a paid cloud backup, like Dropbox or something like that, client management software. I use 17 Hats. There's a million others out there. If you are curious about 17 Hats, I have a code in the bottom. It'll save you 50% off your first year. No, I'm not selling for 17 Hats. I've just been with them forever. Your website hosting, right? Anything that your email marketing, if you use an online gallery like PixieSet, if you have accounting software, if you have scheduling software, I still use 17 Hats for that. So any subscription that you had, I know a lot of people are using paid subscriptions to ChatGPT and Claude. Anything like that goes onto this list. And what you'll also note on these forms is it has the cost on them, and that it also has a frequency tab. So is this a monthly expense, a quarterly expense, an annual expense? So that will just help you keep track and keep things breaking down for you. Then we have the studio tab, right? And you're getting the gist of this, right? So if you don't have a studio, if you're just working out of your home or your apartment or whatever, I would still include some sort of studio rate in this because you're still putting wear and tear on your house. So account for that. If you're going to be going through additional vacuum cleaner parts, that sort of thing, trying to keep the house clean. So that still matters. You're looking at your utilities, so your electric, your water, your internet service provider, all of those things go on there. And then the next tab are marketing. So again, break down all your marketing stuff, your website, if you're running paid ads, you get the point, right? And you'll see all the other tabs and what we have on here. And then there's the last one is a miscellaneous and other. So you have plenty of space to add every single expense that you have as a studio owner, right? So I'm not going to bore you with it. I will go through and fill this out, and then I'll show you so we get to where the numbers are, but account for everything. Oh, and a note on how to use the spreadsheet if you're going to use it on the equipment tab. Under the column where it says type, be sure that you select whether that is a one-time type or if it's amortized. And if it's amortized, in the next column over, tell it how long, 3 years, 5 years, however long you're going to amortize the expense. Now that we have everything entered for everything that we use to run our business, we have our totals. Now, I just kind of roughed in some numbers on these. These aren't exact for my business. This is for example only, but it gives you an idea. So the recap of it is we said that we want our desired annual take home to be $100,000 a year. We are doing 260 sessions in the year, hopefully, and our tax buffer is 35%. When we go through here, add up everything that I added on those lists, and that gives the total annual overhead at $57,456. That is what it costs every year just for me to be in business. So the total revenue needed pre-tax is $157,456, which would require the average sale pre-tax to be $605, right? Then let's factor in the tax because, the state and the feds spent their money too. So the total revenue needed with the tax buffer. So this is your growth. This is everything that you're going to bring in is $232,240, which means your average sale to cover everything is $931.69. So that doesn't mean that every session, that doesn't mean that all 260 of those sessions has to be $931.69. Some of those sessions may be $7,000. Some may be $400. But at the end of the day, when we do the math to hit your goal, at a bare minimum to hit your goal, because the goal is always to exceed it, right? But the goal is an average of $931.69, right? So now let's start figuring out what we have to do to actually hit those numbers. So we're going to now jump over to the second spreadsheet, the pricing strategy calculator. And we're going to take the number that we know that we need to hit, that $931.69, and we are going to put that in the first section, number 1, that says your target. So 931.69. So then from there, we will go over to the actual pricing builder tab. On this spreadsheet, what we're going to do is we're going to list out all of our services, and then we are going to, in the type column, say if it is a session fee or if it's an a la carte image, like you're selling like an 8x10, 8x12, whatever, or like it is a package. Then we will have in the next column, how much does that item cost? So you selling to your client, and then your cost to fulfill that. And then the average quantity per client blended. So basically, and we'll break this down, and I'm going to do it in very simple numbers for this. You can track this on your own. Let's say you had 10 clients in the month. That will become your denominator, and that's how we're going to figure out our thing. For this first example, we're going to keep things just really, really simple, just for example's sake. So let's assume that you are a headshot photographer only, just doing in-studio headshot sessions, and that you sell your images a la carte. Let's assume that you've got 10 headshot clients this month, and that overall, for all of those clients, you're selling 30 images total, right? So some people may buy 1, some people may buy 5, so whatever. And the total for the month is going to be 10 to start this example. And I know a lot of you do things other than just headshots. Don't worry, we're going to break it up and do some other things too. And so to start with, you go into your price builder under the item/package name. First line, I'm just going to put in headshot session fee. And then in the next column under type, under that drop down, I'm going to select session fee. And then let's say your price for the session is $250 for the session, which is what mine currently is. And then your cost to fulfill that, I have 0 because it doesn't cost me anything. Like I'm not buying a product to do that. And then so since all of my clients that we're using in this example are headshot clients, we're going to say the average quantity per client, average quantity per client blended, which will make sense more later, is 1. So just, I don't have portrait and boudoir clients or pet portraits or weddings or babies or anything. We're just doing headshots. So it's 1. Okay. And so that puts my expected revenue per client at $250 per client, right? So then the expected profit, because then it costs me anything, is $250, right? So that's pretty straightforward. So then we'll jump down to the next line and we're going to say, we're selling images here, right? So you sell your headshots a la carte. You're not doing packages or anything, at least for this example. And let's say that you sell them at what I sell a headshot for at this point, based in Louisville, Kentucky, all that good jazz. I do it at least as of right now, in 2026, in August of 2026, you get it. It's $150 per image that a client would pick. So again, cost to fulfill that, I have it 0 because I'm doing my own retouching currently, so it doesn't cost me anything to edit and deliver that image because I'm doing that digitally. And as I said, we know that we sold 30, the goal is to sell 30 that month. So the average quantity per client is 3 in this example. So again, some people could have bought 5, some people could have bought 1, doesn't matter. Our total is 30 total, so 30 divided by 10 is 3. So that means the expected revenue per client on that is $450, and the expected profit from that is also $450 because it didn't cost me anything. So then if we go back over to our front page, what we can see is that our blended average revenue per client and the blended average profit per client is $700 per client. Okay? So if we were saying that what we needed to do was hit $931.69 as an average per client, and we're hitting $700 per client, that means that we have a shortfall as our goal of $231.69. So we have 2 options. We can look at that and go, okay, if that's the case, I either need to raise my session fees or I need to raise my per image cost. or I need to look at how can I sell more images per client. Any of those options are great options. But if I come back into my spreadsheet and I go, okay, so I was at 3 per client and that put me at a shortfall. What if I moved up to 4 images per client? So I change that on the spreadsheet. I come back over to the front page and I see that took my blended revenue to $850 per client, which put me at an $81.69 shortfall. So closer, a lot closer. Let's go back over to the price builder and go, what if I'm able to get that average sold per client up to 5 per client without changing the prices? Just sell more images, come back to the front page, and then I see that takes my blended average revenue per client to $1,000 per client. So that gives me a surplus, means I have $68.31 per client, which surplus is always good. We'd always rather have a surplus than not enough. So does that make sense? Yeah, that really broad number example. So let's mix it up a little and see what we can do. So I do a couple things in my studio. I do professional headshots, and then I do portrait and boudoir sessions. So let's add portrait and boudoir clients to this mix. Let's take the same thing that we just did. So we have those 10 headshot clients for the month, and let's add 4 portrait/boudoir sessions as a hypothetical. So now we've got 14 clients for the month. So where before we were dividing our numbers by 10 to get that ratio, now we're dividing by 14. Okay? But we're looking at a blended average overall for a month. And this is going to enable us to put together our packages and just have the data going forward about what we normally sell to help us set our goals. So now on the headshot session fees, we had 10 of those. So instead of having a 1 in that position, we're going to divide that by 14. So that blended quantity is now 0.71. We have 4 boudoir sessions in there, and let's say we're charging $300 for a boudoir session. So that blended quantity, because we're dividing by 14, so it's 0.29. So this is where the images and the amount sold is going to start to change a little bit. So because we're saying that at least one boudoir client has purchased a 10 image album, we're saying that 3 have purchased a 20 image album. We're saying that one person bought one 24 by 36 print. We're saying that one person bought a 30 by 45 print. And then we're saying that 4 clients each bought 10 8 by 12 prints. Okay, so we've sold a whole lot more images, so that's changing these numbers. But you'll see the 50 headshots that we had sold before. So when that was 5 before, once we did our changes, now we're taking that 50 images sold and dividing it by our 14 clients overall. So on an average, that's 3.57, and then there's a bunch of other decimals. We're going to round for simplicity. Then we have a 10 image album listed, and we sold 1 of those. So we're saying that is 1 divided by 14, which is 0.07, and then other decimals and so on. Same with the 20 image album. So we sold 3 of those. So 3 divided by 14 is 0.21, and then so on and so forth. So that's how we're coming up with these numbers. So once we take everything across all those clients between session fees and what people purchase, our blended average revenue per client, our average is $2,441.07, which is a pretty good surplus in the month, right? So, and to get started at this, you may not know what you're going to sell in the upcoming month or 2 months or whatever. What I recommend that you do is look back at your past numbers, see what you're selling, and put all of those in there. And even if there are 0 sales in there, put those in. So like if you sell 8 by 10s, 8 by 12s, 11 by 14s, or list all of those things down and then what your clients are buying. If you sell 3 different albums, then put all of those albums down there. Whatever you sell, whatever collection, whatever a la carte, list it all out and do this math. Look at how many clients you have, divide by how many you sold, and that's going to tell you per client average what they're buying. That's also going to enable you to look at your offerings and go, well, nobody ever buys the 11 by 14 as an example, but everybody likes an 8 by 12 and a 16 by 24 and a 24 by 36. So you can start to remove things from your offering menu. And an easier offering menu makes sales a whole lot easier. People have too many choices. They get lost and confused. And I can do a whole other video on making sales simple. So now that you've got this data, you know what you need to be making at a minimum per client, how do you use it? To start off with, if you look at what you've been doing sales-wise and price-wise so far, and you're not hitting those goals that it takes for you to run your business, if you're not running a profitable business and being able to pay yourself, because we don't want to do it just to keep the business open, we also want to live a life. If you're not hitting those numbers, then it's time to re-examine your prices. It's time to go, okay, I need to raise them so that I can actually hit these numbers. You may need to look at your marketing and see what you can do to get more clients in. Don't fall for the trap of, if I set my prices high, I'm not going to book clients. That's not how this works. I promise you. As I said earlier in the video, I book more clients once I'm charging what I'm worth, once I'm charging an actual rate versus when I tried to race to the bottom, right? It's a completely different client base. Not only that, if you price too low in the beginning, and I see this all the time with photographers, they go, well, I'm going to lose all of my customers because I was priced, down at the $150 point before, and now, I'm asking for $3,000 a session. You will lose the $150 client. You can just will. That's okay because you're now servicing a different client. Having this data also allows you to be able to put together packages. So if you know that there are groups of things that your clients typically like, then you can price accordingly for that. So one of the hottest sellers in my studio on the portrait and boudoir side are leather-bound albums. So I sell a 10-image version and a 20-image version, and then I have options to go up by 10 from there. These albums, the 20-image is my biggest seller at $3,200, currently at $3,200. And the way that it's priced is because they add more images, they're getting a better price, and I still make more money. So it's more for more is how that works, but it's because I know my pricing on it that works. And a big thing to remember when you're setting your prices, and I've seen a lot of photographers and artists start to feel guilty about this, is we're not selling ink and paper, right? Don't let the idea of when 8 by 10 only costs me X to print, whatever your lab charges for it, so I can't charge more than $20 for it. That's not the case. So what is going into those print prices is your time, your effort, your artistic ability, your skill, your editing, everything that goes behind it. And it's also what it is for the client. It's what emotion is tied into it. How are they going to value it in years to come? It's not just a piece of paper with ink on it. It has emotional value. So don't get hung up on what the number is. You're running a business. Treat it like a business. And then if you still are running into some emotional blocks and going, oh, I can't charge that for a session, you also have to factor in all of the other time that it takes to run your business rather than the time that you're just shooting and editing and delivering. Don't forget your marketing time, the updating your website time, answering the emails from potential clients, those that book and those don't. When you're cleaning your studio, all of the various and sundry things that go into running your business get factored into your pricing. Like a very little of the part that we do is actually behind the camera. It's all of the other parts that it takes to actually reach people to get them in our doors. So then the next question you're going to have is, how do you get clients to do all this? I've made another video about this, I think. And if I've not made the video about it, I will do that. If I've already made it, I'm linking it here. If I haven't already made it, I'll make it. The spreadsheets that we're working through here, link to those down below. If you want to purchase them, that's awesome. I appreciate it. I hope they're helpful. If it doesn't work for you and you just want to do it on your own, that's great too. These are easy to update as your monthly averages shift. You sell more, you and be able to keep track of what things are. If you have any questions, let me know. Be sure to check out other things on the channel. There's a lot going on here between my thoughts on things and the vlogs, and I have things here for clients and things for photographers. And if you've made it this far, you should probably be following as well. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this useful. If you have questions, let me know. I'll see you in the next one.